It's craft beer in Michigan sports. We may not be the authority, but we love both like a fat kid loves cake. Hot, hot! This is State of My Sports.
Before we get into the episode, main topic for episode 127, I want to remind everyone that the Hops Brewing Company and Cafe is pouring some of the best craft beer in West Michigan. Their revamped food menu, rotating taps, and wine and ciders make the Hops perfect for whatever you have going on, from dinner with the family, late night drinks with friends, and everything in between. The Hops is becoming a staple in the West Michigan restaurant community that we highly recommend to our friends and listeners. The Hops is the official brewery of State of My Sports in 2021. And if you mention State of My Sports, you'll get a nice little discount off of your first beer. We had a great time over there last week. Ben always treats us well. That peach sour was amazing. I love that peach sour. I think their beer is still kicking butt, and I love that. But let's get into some Pistons talk. They went 20-52 overall last year and finished 15th in the Eastern Conference and had the second worst record in the NBA. It was a bit of an odd season because the eye test said, this team was making some strides, but lost the close games to finish below their preseason over-under set at 23.5. And fans were happy with what they saw. Their offensive rating was 108, 26 of 30, but their defensive rating at 112.5, 16th out of 30, which is awesome, was a nice positive. Mix that with the young talent and contributors. It feels like this organization is really heading in the right direction. Jeremy Grant is returning with he was a leading scorer at 22.3 points per game. Plumlee's gone, right?
Mason Plumlee's
he led
gone.
the team with 9.3 rebounds and 3.6 assists per game. Steals was Josh Jackson at 0.9, Isaiah Stewart at 1.3 blocks per game. Real quick, I wanted to get in some of the Vegas odds. They're plus 50,000 to win the championship, plus 25,000 to win the East, plus 15,000 to win the Central, and MVP Cade Cunningham is plus 25,000, and their over-under is set at 25.5 wins, which is the third lowest win total, just behind Orlando and OKC. I kind of want to start talking about that first. From what we saw last year from the young talent and the way that they're developing, Dwayne Casey, great coach. He's been proven to be a coach of the year. Why is their win total so low? Are they expecting this to kind of be like a sophomore slump type season here in this rebuild? Or like what's going on with that, Ryan? What do you see when you see that number?
Well, I think, last year they made it. Did you go over all the names that left?
I did not do additions and subtractions.
So I think that's worth bringing up because the subtractions from last year are Derrick Rose, Blake Griffin, DeLon Wright, Mason Plumlee, Wayne Ellington, Dennis Smith Jr., Svi Mikhailuk, Tyler Cook, Jaleel Okafor, Sekou Doumbouya, Davidas Servidis. I mean, these are that is an entire team.
Yeah.
We do not have the longest tenure player in this team is Killian Hayes, last year's first-round draft pick.
It's insane.
Only because he was drafted before the other draft picks.
Let me cross that off my thing I was going to say later on.
I knew that. Sorry. No, so, I think the reason why is because this team is so young. And if you're counting on Killian Hayes, brand new draft picks this year with Cade Cunningham and
Luka Garza.
Luka Garza and Isaiah Livers is going to be out for a while.
Yeah.
But if you're counting on these types of guys and 3 or 4 rookies from last year, 2 rookies from this year, and then some guys that people have given up on like Josh Jackson and some of the other backup role type of guys, then they're not expecting a lot. Yeah, like a guy like
Kelly Olynyk.
These are like journeyman type of NBA players that are not going to make you a great franchise. So I think that's the reason why you're seeing such low win totals. And we've seen some big talent come through in drafts and still have losing seasons until these guys grow up, until they develop the kind of talent that you need around them. And I will say this Pistons team is hard to put your finger on because they have a mixture of really exciting depth mixed with zero top-end talent.
Yeah.
Or at least top-end proven talent other than like Jeremy Grant.
And that, at 22.3, that's not enough for points per game to lead a team to more victories than what we're seeing.
Well,
unless somebody
I think
really steps up and becomes a leading scorer.
Yeah, I think that's a team dynamic more than a points per game. But like, what's the over under? Do you have the over under wins for this
season?
Yeah, for the season,
25.5.
And see,
it's the
I
third lowest.
I would be so over that. Like the over would be so obvious to me to bet for this team because they're going to be competitive in a lot of games. They're going to show how young they are in a lot of games too.
Yeah.
So I'm not expecting them to just take the NBA by storm, but this is going to be a really competitive because they're a talented team, but they don't know how to win yet. So I think until they've proven that they know how to win with this young core guys, then Vegas and all these other, like the NBA like power rankings and stuff, they're not going to show them love until they prove it. And so that's why the Pistons are so low. And it wouldn't surprise me if they're the second or third worst team in basketball. But I think in basketball in general right now, people have kind of been the extreme high and the extreme low are kind of merging towards the center. Like it's getting more and more competitive as more talent comes in.
Yeah. Because
the old players are still not retiring and the young guys are getting good.
I hope so. I think the NBA needs that because it's been way too top heavy, and that would be great to see a little more competitiveness.
I think you're going to see
in the middle.
Yep, I think you're going to see it.
I don't want the top heavy guy teams to just be like, yeah, our record isn't amazing because we just kind of are just going through the motions, and I feel like we've seen that, and it's been fake competitive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I want to see real competitiveness in the league because that's when I will start paying more attention. You know what I mean? I don't like the NBA. Not a big fan. I'll watch the Pistons if they're worth watching, but like, man, they need a wake up call. The NBA does and get more competitive day in and day out and make these games more valuable.
You're gonna see it. You're gonna see it more and more because again, the older superstars that you're seeing are now going to be going up against the young superstars, like the teams like the Grizzlies. Like they're a really talented team, and they're getting some of their young talent back from injury going into this year. And that's just an example. Like the Pistons should hope to be and strive to be like the Grizzlies, get competitive next year or the year after. A lot of like homer guys, if you're listening to the radio, sports talk radio in Detroit, they're expecting this team to compete for maybe even a play-in
spot.
Play-in game, like a 10 seed or something along those lines.
Tournament that they do now.
And I'm along those same lines. I think I might be a little step below them when I'm expecting wins wise.
Yeah.
But they're going to be competitive game in, game out.
I think that's like for me, like what was so eye-opening with the 25.5 over-under wins and the third lowest win total for Vegas. Like I've gone into the season expecting them to be competitive, expecting them to, the last week and a half be ready to get in the playoffs, setting themselves up for, what is it going to be, a 7 seed, a 6 seed, or 5 seed? Like, that's what I had in my head based on what I thought we've added. It's all, and that's why, it was just tough for me to see. But so we went over the subtractions. The additions. Obviously, Cade Cunningham, number 1 overall pick. Luka Garza was in the draft. Isaiah Livers won't get any playing time at all, probably. He'll probably play in the G League if he plays at all this year with the injury. But like with Trey Lyles, Kelly Olynyk, Jamarco Pickett, Chris Smith, outside of the two rookies, really, Cade Cunningham and Luka Garza, like, did they bring in anybody of value? Like, what are we looking at here?
No, and that was by design. Again, we started last year with Blake Griffin.
So do you kind of think of this as this organization's ready to take that step, but they're almost like, let's not take that step. Let's cool it. Maybe we'll get lucky again and get a top 3 pick next year.
So
I don't want to say tank before, like, go ahead.
Well, I want to just kind of go over like the thought process, because if you're a GM, your team is so young, you don't even know what you have yet. You think you know what you have. You have a lot of hopes and dreams for these guys. But if Killian Hayes doesn't have any confidence to shoot the ball and he's not in the long-term plans, then you need to know that before you go off and sign a big free agent.
Yeah.
So this was not the year to go get those free agents.
They didn't have cap space either.
Well, and they didn't yet. Next year they're going to have a ton.
Next year they will, yeah. Yep.
So if we use up all of our remaining cap space this year and go get a big name, that's going to take away playing time from one of these young guys that you're not even sure. You don't even know what you have yet.
Yeah.
So at this point, with all of the talent, again, 3 first-round picks last year, with Killian Hayes, Isaiah Stewart, and Sadiq Bey, you need to know exactly who these guys are before you determine who you're going to pay money for long term.
Nope. That makes sense. So my question here, and it's not on the sheet, and I hope I'm not throwing you to the wolves here.
No, go for it.
Jeremy Grant. That I think is our superstar name. That's our guy. That's the guy that's going to
made Team USA, Olympic gold medalist, all that. Yep.
Yeah. Who is he in the way of?
He's not.
He's not in the way. That's why we can let him stay.
He was in the way of Sekou Doumbouya,
who moved on to multiple teams now.
Multiple
he's with the Lakers
teams,
now.
Yeah. Well, who knows? Yeah,
I think he's with the Lakers, right?
Two-way contract.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, so it's not even a guaranteed, NBA contract. So, Jeremy Grant is not a problem with this French. In fact, I think Jeremy Grant was one of the reasons why we have turned a corner with the Pistons right now, because they decided that they were going to build an identity of defense first, length, some key attributes to these guys that the franchise wanted to build around. And you're going to see the same thing with Cade Cunningham. He plays defense and he's got length. They have a true big body type of guy with Sadiq Bey, who shoots 3-pointers like crazy, broke all kinds of rookie records last year for threes, Pistons rookie records and everything. He's defense first. He's fundamentals first, and he's not selfish. And you're going to see that being a theme with this team is every once in a while we're going to have games where you're like, man, will somebody just step up and score?
Yeah.
Will we just get a score? Because Cade should be trying to take over this game
Does Cade have the ability to take over a game?
Cade can take over a game because he's a great shooter. Okay. I think he's going to be a great shooter in this league. I really do. I think you're going to see more and more of his ability to come in and take big shots when the team needs them most. And I think you always need more than one. Steph Curry needs Klay Thompson.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to build something special, you need more than one dynamic late game type of option to turn to, and the best teams do that. So I think Jeremy Grant is that number one option right now. I think Cade Cunningham will get into that conversation, and then we'll talk about it a little bit. But I think guys like Killian Hayes need to step up and grow up a little bit.
Yeah. So what are your goals for this season for the Pistons? I wrote down be competitive, continue to develop, kind of like we went into with the Lions here. We want to see these guys truly develop. Obviously, the injuries kind of caused issues with the Lions, but also, is it fair that I'm saying find a way to make Jeremy Grant a trade piece and get another lottery ticket? I'm not saying lottery pick, but lottery ticket that you can turn into a future piece? Or is it too early to say that?
So I don't buy the getting rid of Jeremy Grant because you think you're going to lose draft capital or you're going to lose some value from him, because I don't think you're competitive in this league without veterans. And you see that with like the Pelicans. How much talent did that team have with Zion and all the young guys
Ball,
that
still there,
Lonzo
right?
Ball, and like they had so much talent on that team, and yet they don't even know how to win. So you need those veteran guys to teach the young NBA players how to be professional NBA players. You need those guys. And Coach Casey has talked about that over and over. He's like, I will never have a team without veterans because you need veterans. They are that important to the development of these young guys' character, knowing how to practice, knowing how to prepare, knowing how to win.
Yeah.
And so I think a guy like Jeremy Grant's the perfect guy to bring in to teach the young guys how to get there. And not only that, but he's got an opportunity to be who he is without taking a back seat to some other guy.
Yeah.
And he proved himself last year, and I think he's ready to do the same this year.
So what do you want to see? Like if you had a choice between sneaking into a 7th seed, getting swept, or finishing in the bottom 5, getting a top 5 pick, and adding a high-level draft pick to this group, what would you choose?
It all depends on how the season went.
That's not the question.
No, because your first question was valid. Your second question was not.
I think it's valid.
No, because what I want,
Michael,
my goal.
what would you choose? Top 5 pick, right? I would take a top 5 pick.
Well, if it means that, Cade Cunningham got hurt and, didn't play very well, and Killian Hayes is a bust, like, no, I don't want a top 5 pick.
Yeah, okay.
I'd rather them compete for 7th because you have building blocks.
All right, I'll let you answer.
All right, so I think my goal for this year is guys like Hamadou Diallo, who we haven't even talked about, Frank Jackson, Josh Jackson, even like Isaiah Livers, if he can get some playing time, I want to know if they are building blocks for this team. I want to know if we want to sign Josh Jackson to a long-term goal or a contract because he's that good and he's that important defensively for this team. Because at this point, he's still a wild card, who former 3rd or 4th overall pick, who has all the talent in the world, all the athleticism in the world, who showed up last year but kind of faded down the stretch.
Was he the one that was traded from? Was it Orlando or not? Was it traded?
He was drafted by the Suns and he played with them for a while.
Okay.
And he was a bust. Like he couldn't score at all. Last year he scored like 13 points a game for us and played great defense. He's from Detroit. He thinks he's found his identity in Detroit. Cool. He feels he loves this place. He's talked about it over and over this preseason. He's like, I don't know what it is, but I came to the place where I felt comfortable. It just so happens to be Detroit, where I grew up. And I want to know if he's a building block. He's 6'7", 6'8", so athletic, can shoot sometimes, great finisher, blocks everything that comes around him. Cool. So like a guy like that, I want to know if he's long term.
All right.
So Hamadou Diallo, former dunk champion in the NBA for the All-Star weekend. Dunk champion, that means he's got all the athleticism you could ever ask for.
Yep.
I want to know if he's a long-term player for this team. And that's what I mean. Like, we are so deep with real talent, but we don't know what is going to make a difference wins and loss-wise.
All right. Let's get into some player talk here. Breakout player. For me, obviously, I mean, my brain goes to Cade Cunningham, pretty obvious one. But like, I want to know by the end of the year that he was the right choice. You know what I mean? Like, I think there's still those questions, and we're not going to have those answers after year one. But I want to be more comfortable with it. I want to draft the rookie of the year first overall. Like, I feel like that's very important, and not that it translates to long-term success in the league necessarily, but like, I personally want to know that there's excitement in Detroit. Because I think that's what it needs to get those free agents to come, as you already have a piece that I want to play with. And I feel like this is an opportunity for him to kind of start building that resume and reputation of, I want to go play with that guy for that guy. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I want to see. So I kind of pulled up some rookie of the year numbers. Are there numbers that you want to see him hit? Or is it more just eye test? Like, how does that work as a rookie in the NBA?
I think he could match like what LaMelo Ball put up last year with 15, 6 rebounds and 6 assists. I think he could do that with Cade. Yeah, I think I expect him to do that.
People loved what Ball did.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like, people were really like talking high about him. Not just for Rookie of the Year, but other type of awards.
Because of his playmaking ability.
Yeah.
Cade will do it more with his, I think will do it
shooting.
more with his shot and with his defense, because he's a dynamic defensive player. And if we're going to be relying on him to play point guard, that's awesome, man. He's like 6'6", 6'7". Some even have him listed 6'8".
Yeah.
I think that's where he's going to add value. And Cade is one of those guys that I really do think adds real win-loss value. Like, he makes his team better.
So if there's a floor, like if he's average, like let's stick with like points per game. If he's averaging less than 13 points per game, is that a concern? Like, where is that level of being like, oh, it's not translating into the NBA and I can see it now? Is there a number, or is it more of an eye, like another question, like, is it a number or is it an eye test?
No, that's a valid question, because if there's a knock on Cade, it's his ability to create his own shot. And if he's not scoring, maybe let's just say like 12 or 13 points a game. If he's not scoring 12 or 13, and he's having really a hard time creating his own shot and putting the ball in the basket like everybody wants to do, then I'll start getting worried. If he's a pure off-ball player where he's catching the ball in the corner and hitting shots because I think he's a good shooter, that would be concerning. I don't think there's that big of a risk for that being true, but if he's scoring 10 to 12 points a game, I'm going to start getting a little worried.
Do you have a different breakout player, or is that kind of who you would kind of circle here?
No, my breakout player is Isaiah Stewart. I think I want to list people that I believe in, that I think are worth putting, like not that I have a reputation on the podcast or anything, but if I'm going to put my reputation at stake, I'm going to say I believe in Isaiah Stewart. I think he's a dog. I think he's a workhorse. I think he's the Ben Wallace of this team. I think he's got an attitude. He plays tough, and he doesn't sit there and complain about fouls not being called for him. He just sits there and takes it like a man. He says, this guy's a little, yeah.
Larkin.
This guy's a little Larkin, and I'm going to beat him up the next time down the court. Like, he literally has that attitude, and he did as a rookie. So I'm pumped about this year.
I remember you saying that even heading into the season, like when they drafted him. And
I was pumped.
You were pumped, and you said those type of things. You go, this guy fights. This guy has a different attitude than most NBA players.
I think Cade is going to jump all over this attitude that Isaiah Stewart brings.
I would love to see. Yeah.
I think they're going to complement each other great. And he's got touch. I think he's going to hit a lot of threes like he did last year going down the stretch. He's going to be a really valuable breakout player this year.
Yeah. Do you have a player that you think is kind of getting forgotten about?
I would say Sadiq Bey.
Yeah.
From the Detroit crowd, because we're worried about Cade, we're worried about Isaiah Stewart, we're worried about Killian. We're worried about Jeremy Grant and all these guys. Sadiq Bey is like the most. We know exactly what we're going to get out of him. And it's a really good 3-point shooting forward who plays good defense. And if he can add any kind of ability going to the hoop, which I think he already has, he just needs to have the confidence to do it. I think he's going to be such an undervalued type of player in this league, which is exactly the reason why he was drafted.
No, that makes sense. Mike, if you have anything, obviously jump in. I didn't know if you had some thoughts on the Pistons heading in.
Keep rolling, boys.
Rebound player I thought was hard to find. When you have a bunch of young players, I mean, like you said, Killian Hayes is the longest tenured. You don't really have somebody that had an absolute down year. I think he would kind of be a good candidate for a rebound player, but I actually went with Lyles. I mean, Trey Lyles. I don't know anything about him. I looked up some numbers. I mean, he's played in a lot of games heading into the season. Is he not valuable enough to
I wouldn't say he's not valuable. He'll actually probably get a lot of playing time this year.
And that's kind of where I was at. So he started, 63 games, 64 games, 73, 80 at times. Now last year was 23 games that he played in, and only started in 9 of them. From the previous year he started 53 games.
He's looked pretty good in the preseason so far. I don't think he's really going to play a big role on this team either way.
So who's your biggest rebounding candidate here?
I would love to say Killian Hayes because he had a really bad year last year. I just have not.
It wasn't really bad, was it? He had a really bad start, got hurt, and then he came back and showed quite a.
Yeah, this is a good question. So, Killian Hayes is. I think has the potential to be an elite level defensive player at the guard position. He has the potential to have elite passing ability and playmaking ability. I do not see him the way his attitude is. I do not see him right now. I think he's going to be a letdown offensively, which is weird because that's why he was drafted, because of his playmaking ability. But he can pass the ball, but he will not shoot the ball. And I don't know if he just has no confidence. I think he actually could be a really good shooter, like a really, really good Derek Fisher type of shooter. And he just has no confidence in his ability right now. He looks constantly for somebody else to shoot, and I think it's like he's playing with fear, and I don't know if he can get past that. And my fear with him is that he'll never get rid of that fear, and he'll just become a bust or a backup because I don't know, because he just never grew or developed that kind of confidence that he needs to be an elite level player.
So he is your rebound player?
Oh, no, that was all the reasons why he was not. Because I don't think he will rebound this year. I'm worried about him.
You're worried about it.
I am worried about him.
All right, so who would you be your rebound player? And that's, again, pretty tough. That's a tough category to fill here in Detroit.
Yeah, it is, because, again, we haven't had a lot of people playing for a long time.
Yeah.
I think my rebound player is going to be Josh Jackson. And he had a rebound season last year, but I think he'll rebound even more. I think he's going to be more important to this team than people give him credit for.
Awesome. Dark horse MVP. Somebody stand out to you that could really be the heartbeat of this team?
Jeremy Grant's an obvious guy, but that's not dark horse at all. I'll say Cade, who's also not dark horse, but he is this important to the team. And if the franchise will go as he goes. If he is elite, if he is like a Ben Simmons who can shoot type of talent that people have cited that he could be, then we're in good hands.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's MVP worthy. I hope so.
Yeah, I lean towards Jeremy Grant just because I'm curious if he's going to be another guy or a guy that's like get on my back and lead this team to victories and like raises 22 points per game?
Yeah,
somewhere around there.
22.6, I think.
Can he bring it up to 26? Like that? Like can he do that? Well, if he is and it's not translating, can he bring in other pieces at the trade deadline? I still think that's a big possibility. For me, that's what makes him the most valuable player on this roster heading into the 2021-22 season. Is you're either going to be really good and lead this team to the playoffs, or you're going to be who you have been and bring in peace at the trade deadline. And either way, I think that's valuable, and that's kind of where I went. But who's your under-the-radar player?
My under-the-radar player, I was deciding between Frank Jackson and Josh Jackson. I've already used Josh Jackson at this point, so I'm going to go Frank Jackson. He came on the scene last year and tore it up. Like his numbers shooting the ball from three-point was just incredible, and he came off the bench as a spark plug, and I expect him to do the same, and he hasn't shown anything in preseason to make me think otherwise. He's going to come in. He's going to score like crazy, and I think he's going to be a super underrated part of this team. And I think he plays good enough defense too, where instead of just being a spark plug, he might actually have like a big-time role in this team. So watch out for Frank Jackson. I think he's dangerous at this point.
Yeah, I actually went with Killian Hayes, more or less because I feel like you're bringing in younger guys, or not necessarily younger guys, but newer guys. You have the nice shiny toy with Cade. You have people questioning if they even work together. If drafting Cade means Killian's already out of here. People talked about that. It'll be interesting to see, especially with Cade being hurt heading into the season. He hasn't practiced much, if at all. He's already been ruled out for tomorrow, which sucks for a home opener and stuff.
Is Killian playing tomorrow?
I haven't heard that he wasn't. I didn't know he was fighting something, but
yeah, he's been out for the preseason.
Can he take advantage of a slow start for Cade and kind of, it kind of fits the don't forget about player, but kind of step in and show that he is valuable in this
Yeah,
team.
absolutely.
Is he going to have a piece? I think he could sneak up and do that. I think it's more hope than anything. I feel like I lean towards more Sekou Doumbouya type thing. Like it just didn't work. You know what I mean?
With Killian?
Like, yeah, and that sucks.
I'm worried
that
about
hurts.
But let's think about where this franchise is at, because we feel like there's a lot of excitement around the team, and our starting lineup theoretically really should be Killian, Cade, Sadiq Bey, Jeremy Grant, and Isaiah Stewart. Those are 4 first-round draft picks over the last 2 years, and Jeremy Grant. So if there's something to be excited about, that's it. And if you still don't believe in this team, we'll mix that kind of a core with the next draft picks that we're getting.